Right. What am I missing? Maybe I have to complete it? This is where the policeman figurine key goes in. It was obviously a thing of great importance, Inspector. I don't even know what I'm trying to do. Cosmo wasn't dead. Why did he lie? Lying's alright. Okay. Stop Kazuma from... Maybe we have to give them the card with the names? What should we do? Tangible omen. Then we're going to present... There's no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You're very clear that it was Judge Jigoku's office that should be searched, so... You obviously knew that that's where the list of names would be found. A. Isugi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago, only because they appeared as part of the top secret government communications that were leaked. At the time, you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan. Around 6 months before that, approximately this time last year in fact, when you were both still in Japan. So it really would be hypocrisy on my part to improve others for intercepting state secrets. Because after all, virtually eavesdropping on communications between British and Japanese governments. You're perpetually doing that? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes when he has designs on knowing it. Oh my, Mr. Sholmes, what a fabulous line. Now, 1 month after the list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jigoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partly correct and partly mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow. Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about these 4 names of the tragedy, which they are somehow all connected. As I said, when I learned Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names because you see, there's someone else on the list who I believe to be recently deceased. What? Who? Shin. That was transcribed in Japanese script. In fact, was Miss Asashine. And that's a familiar name to me. She is a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes. I see. But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed, and accordingly, I became fearful for the lives of the remaining two persons on the list, Kay Asogi and T. Gregson. Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself, but I determined it'd be safe if young Asogi were to stay away from Britain. So that's what you went to such great lengths to prevent the study tour from going ahead. Exactly. So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes? Oh yes, Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters, and the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. So Dr. Wilson is dead, then? I didn't know. Iris, I know he wasn't my daddy, but still, that's very sad. I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring it to ourselves to tell you. No. But what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis. Big hole, Mr. Naruhodo? Ah, yes. You mean about Asashine, I presume. Of course, exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? She was in Japan posing as a visiting student under assumed name Giselle Brecht. I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow. But I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago, in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. Upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I formed surrounding those four names was completely turned topsy. Topsy? What do you mean when you say hypothesis was turned topsy? Mr. Sholmes? I'd believe all four names on the list to be names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Asashine was the killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed, and it would seem that Miss Sheen was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson. Her visiting student status was merely a front. Which could, of course, explain why no motive could be determined for her actions. The real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asashine is because he was the target of an assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, fresh consideration of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you? There's another among the four, who subsequently became visiting student. Wait, you mean? That, of course, a name you only know so only too well. You mean Kazuma? He did say in court earlier today. Yes, on the 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. And the mission was the assassination of the Mark. Young Mr. Sogi accepted the mission a year ago. Surely not. In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say. An international agreement to detail an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Kazuma have possibly gotten involved in something like that? Let's assume we have two parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. Those two parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassin targets. That would be then an assassin exchange. So to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Japan, where she kills her target. And then the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target? It certainly does sound like an exchange. But what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruto, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction. thanks to the diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. Yes. Such jurisdiction would be null and void under the terms of a new treaty between our two countries. So the fact is that it was brought into place to just intervention at the very highest levels. The highest levels? These murders were two sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive, by a contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated, yet in truth, the assassins were complicit in one singular devilish scheme. That is disassociation and safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot. Wait a minute, Sholmes? If this telegram really is described the exchange of assassins as you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer's target was never Seishiro Jigoku at all. It would mean Asugi's target was actually Inspector Gregson. Asuma was here for Gregson? The Judge Jigoku wasn't actually the mark? But hold on. If we look here, T. Gregson wasn't John Wilson intending to maybe murder T. Gregson? Or was it Asugi? I'm done? Hey, Ambassador. Yep, I'm done. We lost on our semifinals. So, do you want to play some 3v3s, Ambassadors? Let us know. That's exactly what it would mean. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe. Mr. Sholmes told him of my fears, implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position, obviously, with the young pickpocket in tow. Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention to us at the Great Exhibition that he'd be transferring to Paris Police and taking Gina with him. Alright. Chat with you in a bit. But without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last. This is too much to take in. What should we do? Alright, everyone. That's quite enough of that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, at the time. Quite right, Iris. You must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I might make my way back to my hotel room now. This has certainly been a night to remember. It is a little bit sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Because what Susie would have been my big sister. I'm sorry, Iris. I mean, I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Are you? But if someone like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister. What? Really? Oh yes, without question. So you'll teach me all the ways you know how to throw Runo onto the floor? Yes, of course. It would be my pleasure. You don't have to agree to quite so readily. But wait a minute, if Susie's gonna be my big sister, could you be my big brother if you want, Runo? I mean, of course. If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. You must always be mindful of feelings. I've raised you so well. Because being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally. Alright. Right, I'm gonna work extra hard for tomorrow now. Because it's for my big brother and big sister. What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing for what? You'll just have to wait and see. Alright, see you in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. So the overnight break in the trials proceeding became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths whilst posing new conundrums. That list of 4 names on the telegram in Judge Jigoku's office, and the extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend somehow become involved. I felt as though I had been plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt sure I would see the light again soon. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me. Aww. To be continued. Alright, that's part 1 of the last chapter. Da-da-da-da-da. Something. Da-da-da. Here we go. The 4th November, 9:30 a.m. I guess we're gonna do an investigation phase, perhaps? Or not. The Old Bailey courtroom. Rum, 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 rum. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that Well-Known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you'll undertake this trial with a resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve, yes, that's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asugi permitted to continue his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to concluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has been all leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma? Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma's bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? An extreme exception to normal practices, I've granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Yes, my lord. Alright, here goes. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare the court to be in session again. Alright, I'm gonna go to the restroom and I'll truly be in session. Here we go. Alright, we're almost here. Getting pretty hot in here. Alright. Ooh. Here we go. Let's court is in session. We resume the closed hearing of Baron Zeeks. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Tishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. Last then, we've reached the final battle. He is putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for the steady resolve. Steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Here we go. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Huh. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Ha ha ha. Well, look at that what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day you take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also the current Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. And now, I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance, like your friend across the courtroom, I see. Came here to London by invitation of the International Forensic Science Symposium, but then without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I have to object to that turn of phrase. I hope so, because that's pretty cool. I don't know if I could pull off a big beard like that. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say, I declined to comment. Oh, leaving the country prematurely when I was invited to guests may be questionable etiquette, but my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector had been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify, as it's as simple as that. So, you'd run from this? Beg your pardon? This case is far more than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. You're Judge Jigoku, at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see the look in your eyes. that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku is involved in this case? What on earth is that? This piece of evidence is a welcome present to the courthouse with compliments to the defense. You have a poor grasp of British court etiquette, counsel. That's the extent of your resolve? You disappoint me, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What? I thought that was the right thing. Stand tall, Mr. Naruhodo. That's a minor blow. Having your best friend tell you he's disappointed in you really stings, though. But of course, we have evidence that ties Judge Jigoku to this case. Evidence showing a few key names, even. Right. So, we have to show this thing? Alright. This telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: A. Asogi, A. Shin, and T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follow a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson were names of victims. A. Asogi and Ashin were the names of assassins. Oh. A year ago in Tokyo. Well, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett. Her real name was Asashin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. Asashin and her victim Jay Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan for also a visiting student named Kazuma Asugi. His victim was the British Police Inspector Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as in a form of an assassination exchange. In the telegram the defense has acquired as proof of this international contract to kill. What? What? The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku? What is this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard. Hello, Wrench. Welcome. As shown by the name of the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present today when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence. It only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of the Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Yes, this is the famous pointing game. This is the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Objection! Hiya! Yoshikoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in a contempt of court. I'm well. I got really tired this morning because we hung out kinda late yesterday. Right, Mr. Kato? So, you bit me hard. Why are you doing that? You wanna go? Okay, let's go. Ah, ah. Here you go. Come on. Go on. You bit me enough already. Hmm? You can go now. Bye-bye. Alright. What are we gonna do? It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear. So maybe it's a cross-examination? Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. Alright. Let's close the door finally. Hold on, I need to be talking to someone. Alright, we're back. We're back. It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. He sneeze. Target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was the condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so I clearly can't have been involved. But we already know about the shot. So you admit it then? That this communication suggests there really is an assassin exchange agreement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce someone to commit murder? This is the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Atsuki had a reason for taking his sword to the British inspector. That British inspector, you know. Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Maybe Gregson was the Reaper? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you're the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I have killed nobody. I fully admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London in the room of Fresno Street. Actually, we kinda know it wasn't the case. The perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Beric von Zeeks. Prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. How suspicious. To think that seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such a Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister or a high-ranking judge, such as a witness, could hope to execute. Well, it seemed to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it's not the place for this court to pursue this wilderness assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? All right, we're gonna run some 3v3s at least 1 to 2 times, and then we're gonna continue. We're gonna swap over one more time.